In a dimly lit room where tension pressed against the walls, Han sat clutching documents as he fixed a suspicious gaze on Jin-tae, demanding to know if he had truly handed over the 130 million won. Jin-tae knelt thoughtfully on the floor, his voice carrying a note of defensive determination as he insisted he had done what was required, at least in an official sense. Han stood frozen in profile, his eyes wide with shock as he demanded an explanation for the unexpected revelation. Jin-tae said that he would give it to him if he stamped the document revealing Yoon Min-jae had no choice. Han then ached and then, Jin-tae says that he didn't give it. Han sat frozen in shocked and disbelief, as he knew what that meant. Jin-tae supported the wounded Han and confessed that Min-jae's death was his own fault, insisting Ishin bore no blame. In a burst of furious energy, Han's hands collided with Jin-tae's hand as he demanded to know what was wrong with Jin-tae, his anger echoing in the tense air. Jin-tae admitted regret for his chosen path while calmly demanding to know why Han was reacting so harshly. Han, bruised and wide-eyed, stared upward, his mind reeling as he struggled to process the shocking truth that had just been revealed to him. In the shadow-drenched room, Jin-tae seized Han with unwavering resolve, pressing him to explain his absence from the club and questioning whether he truly intended to seek help. In a charged silence, Han's hand clenched a torn piece of fabric, his frustration palpable as he demanded to know if that was the reason behind this act. In a quiet, sunlit room, Jin-tae clasped Han's hands with unwavering resolve, his voice edged with concern as he urged Han to consider his next move with utmost care. As Han sits up, Jin-tae demands to know where he's going. Han stood resolute as he explained that without completing the payment, he needed to destroy the fake documents, determination sharpening every movement as he crumpled and discarded the incriminating papers. Inside a starkly lit office, tension crackled between Han, determined yet cautious, and the authoritative Jin-tae, who finally gave a reluctant nod and instructed Han to do as he wished, his serious gaze betraying a grudging resignation. In a dimly lit hallway thick with tension, Jin-tae watched Han head for another room, voicing his concern and receiving a calm reply that he was simply going to wash up. In the muted light of the bathroom, Jin-tae faced Han with grave concern, urging that after 10 years, it was time to reflect seriously on the decision before them. Steam curled through the bathroom as Han, his hair still damp beneath the steady stream of the shower, glanced over his shoulder and asked with quiet curiosity if someone planned on going out. Amidst relentless rain, Jin-tae seized Han by the shoulders, his determined gaze unwavering as he asserted that his certainty came from witnessing Han every single day. Suspended in a cosmic, star-filled expanse, Han and Jin-tae confronted mirrored versions of themselves, the air charged with a reflective stillness as Jin-tae observed that Han hasn't changed in the past decade. Jin-tae issued a chilling warning about inevitable fates and urged that avoidance would only hasten an early demise. In the dim hush of rain, Jin-tae clung to Han with aching desperation, confessing through trembling words that his pain came from never knowing how long Ishin had left, tomorrow, or a year, leaving them both suspended in uncertainty. Under a relentless downpour, Han stood close to Jin-tae, his voice heavy as he reminded him with somber finality that mortality comes for everyone. Rain continued to streak down Han's face as he looked upward, quietly admitting that no one, including himself, could ever know the hour of their own end. Han stood in his drenched suit gripping Jin-tae's arm, his voice heavy with worry as he confessed his reluctance to hope, doubting that even the club could help when doctors themselves had no answers. Water streamed down the determined face of Jin-tae, his wet black hair clinging to his brow as he resolved to at least try something, the weight of decision sharpening his gaze. In the relentless downpour, Jin-tae stood drenched and trembling, his voice breaking as he accused Han of cruelty and pleaded in anguish about how he would survive after their death. Jin-tae drew Han close, pressing a gentle kiss to his forehead and confessing his love, leaving Han touched and vulnerable in the quiet embrace. In the relentless downpour, Han, formally dressed and radiating determination, seized Jin-tae by the collar and, his voice low but unyielding, demanded that this come to an end. Rain poured over the trembling pair as Jin-tae, voice breaking with sincerity, confessed love to Han Ishin and pleaded for him to respond, desperation etched into every word. Jin-tae reached out with concern toward the vulnerable, shirtless Han, quietly insisting that he needed to wash up as Han turned away in silent distress. Jin-tae paused in silence, his expression clouded with deep reflection as an air of pensiveness settled around him. From the quiet of the corridor, the scene shifted to the dimly lit bathroom where water streamed from the showerhead, and a heavy sense of responsibility pressed on Han as he admitted to himself that Jin-tae's transformation was his doing. Han reflects that the past Jin-tae wouldn't have acted so ruthlessly. Countless people stood in quiet despair, each representing those left jobless in the wake of Hajin's bankruptcy. On a grimy, blood-stained floor, Han stood barefoot in solemn silence, his gaze fixed downward as he accepted the heavy responsibility for the suffering around him. Han admitted to Jin-tae that he could never abandon Jin-tae, confessing with quiet certainty that Jin-tae was the most precious person in his life, the one he truly loved. Han says the only choice was to do everything possible to keep Jin-tae from growing more cruel. For someone as selfish as Han himself, this was the greatest effort that could be made. Han asked if agreeing to visit the club would finally bring satisfaction. Jin-tae wrapped his arms protectively around a distressed Han, his eyes burning with determination as he vowed to find or even forge a way not to lose him. Han faced Jin-tae with gentle resolve, reassuring him that there was no need to become harsh or to change on his behalf, insisting softly that he himself remained unchanged. As Jin-tae slams Han on the bed, he says to Han that he'll always be there for him. Jin-tae leaned over Jin-tae, his gaze searching as he quietly asked whether Han truly loved him. A tense silence hung between them as Han's lips parted slightly, his hesitation filling the air with unspoken uncertainty. Han lay back in quiet surrender as an outstretched hand hovered uncertainly above him, his expression revealing a weary refusal as he insisted that he did not agree. Han wondered if confessing his love could bring such happiness to Jin-tae. Jin-tae knelt alone, Han's thoughts weighed down by the melancholic realization that embracing happiness meant living in constant fear of its loss and the pain that solitude would bring if Jin-tae were ever left behind. Han admitted to himself that his reluctance to confess love was born from a desperate wish to spare someone else from ever feeling such isolation and distress. In the tense stillness of the moment, Han's conflicted gaze hardened as he resolved inwardly that he would never reveal his feelings. Then, leaning closer over Han's vulnerable form, Jin-tae spoke quietly, assuring him that he already understood. Lying on a pillow in the quiet half-light, Jin-tae spoke softly, his gentle expression revealing a wistful vulnerability as he admitted his fear of being left alone. Han's protective hand gently caressing Jin-tae's face as he offered a tender farewell and urged him to seek the path their father once spoke of, softly insisting that even in his absence, Jin-tae should find comfort in others. Jin-tae clung to Han in a trembling embrace, his voice raw as he begged Han not to look at him with that expression or pretend to be someone who would leave. Han lay on his back, eyes fixed on the ceiling, his voice carrying the weight of resolve as he insisted they should at least give the money to Yoon Min-jae's child. In response, Jin-tae seized Han's face with desperate frustration, confronting him about bringing up the issue again as Jin-tae defensively insisted there was no solution left and pleaded not to be blamed further. Jin-tae leaned forward with a chilling intensity, warning that if things failed to go as desired, he was capable of anything, pointing to Hajin as a stark example of his resolve. Reeling from his own words, Han covered his face with a weary hand, reflecting aloud in a tired murmur that even Hajin had become an example of what he was willing to do. On a stark surface, a glass toppled over, sending a tense wave of red liquid spreading outward as if propelled by a surge of raw emotion. Han recalls the situation with Yoon Won-young and stated that he wasn't crying. Yoon Won-young's eyes haunted Han's mind. Han feared that such hostile gazes might one day return. In a tense, charged moment, Han leaned in close to Jin-tae, his voice firm as he warned him never to repeat those actions again. Han and Jin-tae hugged on the bed. Jin-tae urged Ishin not to lose hope on him either. Han wondered how much time remained in his life and whether redemption for his sins was still possible.